Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakakwadash. The double honors to the elder apostles, the bishops, and the elders of GMS who rules well. Peace and salutations to the elect. My name is Aina. The title of this video is This is Bad News for America. Right, and ultimately, just a whole lot is taking place. Right, you can get Revelation 12 and 12 because the walls are closing in on this devil all around the world at everything with everything that he's doing. This is Revelations 12 and 12. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Right? So a lot is taking place that Esau, Edom, the wicked, right, knows that they have a short time. Right? You have different things happening. You have the chariots visiting this place, right? You have the Israelites waking up. You have the nation moving away from the dollar. You're having windows of opportunity regarding the situation in the so-called Middle East slipping away from the grasp of those Amalekites over in the land of Israel, right? So a lot is happening where this devil is feel like he's losing. Even when Trump came into office and he started signing all those executive orders, a statement that he said was we should have did this 30 years ago, right? So they're moving very fast, and ultimately, uh, Job 18:11 says, terrors shall make him afraid on every side and shall drive him to his feet. Right? Terrors. So this is what's happening. Right. And I mean you can get it up here. I'll get it from 5. Job 18:5, it says, yet the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him. The steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. And that's a big thing. That's a big part of what's happening right now, because this devil is back into a corner and he's trying to save himself, even though that wound is too grievous to be healed. He's forwarding Bible prophecy, basically, in the action that he's making. Of course, Bible prophecy will happen, regardless, but we as humans looking at what's happening, we can clearly see everything that he's doing is not helping him. It's only making it worse. It's like quicksand. They say if you move a lot, the quicker you sink in quicksand. This devil is in quicksand, and he's a Rottweiler, moving around trying to escape or something. It says, the steps of his strength shall be straightened, and his own counsel shall cast him down. For he is cast into a net by his own feet, and he walketh upon a snare. And he can't do anything. Every move he makes is a bad move. The jinn shall take him by the heel, and the robber shall prevail against him. The snare is laid for him in the ground, and a trap for him in the way. Terrors shall make him afraid on every side, and shall drive him to his feet. That's the point. He has all these different terrors all around him. Basically, just everywhere he looks, basically he's losing, right? Even though they say, "Oh, we're good, we're winning, we're doing this, and we're so great," that's not the case, right? And everyone knows it, right? The dollar is going to shit, the country is going to shit, right? And they're not hitting the objectives. Even Trump, he said they obliterated the bunkers in Iran, and then at one point he came back and said, "We obliterated, or we obliterated some of them, or we tried to." So it's like, yo, I'm still confused on whether the fuck do they control Venezuela? They don't control Venezuela because there's no clear answer, right, to what's going on because they're struggling. Right? NLT says terrorists surround the wicked and trouble them at every step in the NLT. AMP says terrorists frighten him on every side and chase at his heels. Yeah, there's no escape. This man is talking about the border peace, and no one's joining that shit. And then Putin, they had like a $300 billion seized of Russian assets, and he's charging people $1 billion to join his dumbass border peace, right? And Putin jokingly said, "Yo, yeah, you can just unfreeze $1 billion from the frozen assets, and I can join." All right, so people really laugh at America, in these last days. So there's a lot happening. All right, and I'm gonna get these precepts first, and I'll play the videos, and then If anything comes to me while I play these videos, I'll get it. I got this over here, this new website, Bricks, because there's a Bricks currency, which I knew nothing about until just now. But I watch this news channel right here all the time, and this involves Russia, and I didn't see anything about it. So I was like, yo. So anyway, I got this Bricks now, this new website, Bricks, and I seen a little bit of them talking about the money and whatnot, and the different allies and all of that that's happening. And that's another part of what how. So let's start with Isaiah 19. That's another part on how Trump is, you know, causing Bible prophecy to be fulfilled by pushing all these people around the world right to where he doesn't want them to be. And that's a part of why you're seeing the sanctions on different countries. People, Trump sanctioning people that if they do trade with China, right, going into Venezuela, him attacking uh BRICS partners. Venezuela would have been a BRICS partner. Nigeria was trying to be a BRICS partner, right, or whatnot, and Trump is bombing them. So we see exactly what's happening, right? So Isaiah 19:1, it says, "The burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord Yahweh Bashmal Shai, arrived upon a swift cloud, which is a chariot, shall come into Egypt, which is America, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence." So all the AI robots they got, right, and all the false gods that don't move, just painted over with different resources and all of that will be burnt up and moved. It says, "In the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it." Right, ultimately the nuclear missile is being shot here. And I would set the Egyptians against the Egyptian. Breaking news, ICE agent shoots and kills. I don't know if he's dead. I believe he's dead. From what I've seen, another American citizen seems to be a white Edomite male, right? Um, the video I've seen, the ICE officer, shot the guy basically. So that's breaking news that's happening right now, and that's the American against American, for the most part, because we do know that these some of these ICE agents are actually IDF soldiers from Israel, but you also have Americans, joining that. And the reason why I said those IDF agents because that's shameful stealing on the glory of this whore, right? And allowing people to know that it's not really America who's running the world; it's these Amalekites, right? That goes back to these Israelis over in the land of Israel. Okay. It says, "Now we set the Egyptian against the Egyptian, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof." Yeah, just when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. Roughly paraphrasing that scripture. It says, "And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof." He's going to destroy the counsel. And as you can see clearly, Trump is trying his best to accomplish some things, but everything that he's accomplishing and doing is pushing his enemies further away from him. You know, because they're all, even his allies, they're going to be his enemies. He's pushing all these people away from America, away from the dollar, right, away from trusting in America and their laws and things that they have set up. He's saying the law of might is right. I gotta slack you. I have my thing on. I don't know if you guys heard me. For the first 8 minutes. Hopefully you did. I didn't really say too much. I read Isaiah 19. You know, yeah. So let me exit this out real quick. Yeah, I be having that speaker on because my computer is kind of low. I be trying to listen to things, when I have time and I can't really hear. So anyway, I'm back. You can hear me. You can hear the screen or whatnot. Um, yeah. So Trump has no understanding of what's happening because everything that he's doing is pushing people away from him. All right. So I forgot what I was going to say there, but Isaiah 19:3 says, "And the spirit of Egypt shall fill in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and it shall seek to the idol." So they're seeking now to, AI, different things to try to help them. These different um, you know, left hand sources and whatnot. And they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards, right? You have Isaiah 47 that goes into the councils. That's something like what they're doing right now with this Davos situation over there in Switzerland, right? This is one of those days when they seek to these different spirits and wizards and charmers and idols and ask, how shall we proceed, right? And those spirits proceed to give them, wicked counsel that's going to destroy them. It says, "And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashar Shad, the Lord of hosts, right? And I've seen a video where they're talking about Trump said he was talking about a fourth term. Mind you, he has to do the third term before he gets to the fourth term. So he's talking about a fourth term, as in office. Pretty soon it's going to be the forever term. And then this Board of Peace thing, this man is the chairman of the Board of Peace forever. So, he probably believes he's going to rule forever, but how would that even work once he's not president? If that was to happen, how would him being the chairman of this Board of Peace even work? You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't. So that's another stupid ass idea. From that's the Most High destroying the council, because even that thing is supposed to try to replace the UN. So you have this cruel Lord ruling, and that's Donald Trump, and his council is destroyed, and that's why the things that he's doing is pushing his allies away. Right? This is and his biggest. They say this was the biggest alliance in history, and Trump is crippling it. Right? To try to save America and the dollar and all of that. This is Revelation 17 and 12. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast." Now, the beast is the system, right? But the head of the beast is America, right? So basically America. And these 10 horns are a part of that system, which is the NATO, the EU. It says these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Right. So this was the NATO EU, and they basically did the bidding of America. And people would say, I was watching this one video where the lady was saying that these NATO and EU was brought up to just be a pawn of America. And that's why they don't really have a military. They don't really have a voice or a force. That's like us, the Israelites. No one speaks for us. America speaks for us. Right, we don't have our own land or anything like that. We have our land, we're just not there because we were brought here through slavery, right? And we're waiting on our Lord to return to bring us back to our own land. But for now, the people that would speak for us will be these dumbass Edomites, right? And the same people speak for Europe, right? America speaks for Europe, but that's changing in these last days. It says, "These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful." So those will be the elect. The Lord of Lords will be the Lamb will be Yahushua, of course, and they're going to try to fight the Lamb in World War III, because they're going to be warring against each other, and Yahushua is going to pull up and deliver us, because at the end of that war, nuclear missiles will be shot, and we need to be delivered from those nuclear missiles. It says, "And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate." Now the whore represents America, right? And the head of the beast system is America. That's why it's kind of like interchangeable, right? But the whore is actually America. America rides the beast, which is the system. Okay. It says Revelation 17 and 16. And that's because I just did a video where I was going over this a little bit. I was saying, yeah, the beast is America, but also this and that, so it's kind of interchangeable. All right. If you need any further clarification, just let me know in the comment section. Revelation 17 and 16, it says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire." So these 10 horns go into NATO, the EU, and they're going to eventually side with Russia, pursuant to Ezekiel 38, where Russia has many people join with him, right? And they're going to shoot missiles on America, right? And we're going to get a little bit of that now. This is Obadiah 1 and 7, and we'll get it in the NOT here. It says, "All your allies will turn against you. They will help to chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you." And that's most likely taking place right now. because as you're gonna see in these videos and this article that I got, these nations are trying to do talks with Russia because they see that a multipolar world is coming where you don't have just America running everything, you have a lot of people running everything, and that's not according to scripture, right? America is the king that rules over the nations. And that's why America is done with now. And that means this whole setup is done. No one's next. All right. The Israelites are next. So they're most likely plotting and to deceive America in this time now because they're already having talks or wanting to talk with Russia while America is threatening NATO and EU and making them split apart and things like that. And also the dollar is falling at the same time while America is trying to take other people's land. So everything basically the stars are aligning, as they say, with everything that's happening here. This is Habakkuk 2 and 5. Start at 4. It says, "Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, just a wicked, vile, decrepit individual." Right? It says, "But the just shall live by his faith." Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, which is, his way of life, basically his laws, his policy, and things like that, right? These different documentations, all of that. It says, yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and keepeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. So this thick clay goes into the word ibatya, which goes into debts, heavy weights, which is the money, which America has all this debt, and the dollar is declining, and that's not good for the system, for the people, because America is the reserve currency, so everyone is using it, and this devil is doing too much. He's trying to take people's land, and the dollar is falling. And just like how long? So that's the time period we're living in. That's where we're at. It says NLT again, Obadiah 1:7. All your allies will turn against you. They will help to chase you from your land. They will promise you peace while plotting to deceive and destroy you. Your trusted friends will set traps for you. You won't even know about it. Right. So more than likely, that's what's happening right now because as you're going to see, these nations are linking up with Russia, basically. So this is from the new website I just found over here, right? It says Germany suddenly turns toward a reconciliation with Russia. Germany was one of those mentioned in Ezekiel 38 to join with Russia. Okay, Gomer. All right, when you get the Bible map, that area over there where Germany is called Gomer. All right, it says you can search up Bible map Ezekiel 38 and did it pop up. Trust me. Germany suddenly turns toward, unless they delete it, a reconciliation with Russia. It is now clear to everyone but the British that Russia is the winner. Okay, here we go. This is Monday, January 19th, 2026. It is January 24th, okay, 2026. So, new news, not recent news, but new to me. It says German Chancellor, okay, Chancellor Frederick Merz, who wanted to send his country's forces for a new military campaign to the east, was left isolated and now wants to sit down at the negotiating table with Russia. He realized that the Americans were abandoning him, leaving Europe behind, and that a return to real politic in a multipolar world was underway, which must include cooperation with Russia. So they're seeing that America is dying, all right, and that Russia is winning, BRICS is winning, their currency being backed by 60% gold, 40%, other, currencies and things like that, which I got a video here, is the way to go. So this new realpolitik suggests cooperation on security and especially economic issues. The Americans are leaving Europe to handle its own affairs. See, so this is they're starting to hate the whole because America's like, yo, I'm out of here, do your own thing, figure it out, right? And Germany needs to prioritize its own interests, including those with the old continent, which also involves Russia. So it says at a New Year's reception at the Chamber of Commerce, Merz, discussing plans for the upcoming year, expressed hope for restoring balance in relations with Moscow. Okay, if we manage to bring peace and freedom back to Europe, if we finally find a balance in relations with our largest European neighbor, I'm talking about Russia, if peace reigns, if freedom is ensured, if we succeed in all this, then the EU, then we in Germany will pass this next test and be able to look to the future with confidence after 2026. Um, the chancellor said his comment was not because he was in the east of Germany. I say this wherever I am in Germany, he said, adding that Russia is a European country. So he was on the east side of Germany, closer to Russia. Says Merz actually agreed with France and Italy on whether Europe should restart direct negotiations with Russia, specifically with President Vladimir Putin. So we got Macron, and then the one lady, the one chick over there in Italy, which is her right here, right? This one's her. I don't know. This is kind of different. This is her though. It says Italian prime minister. So now you have Germany, then you got France, now you got Italy, and they're all talking to amongst themselves saying, yeah, we need to talk with Russia. Right? Italian prime minister Giorgia stated earlier this month that Europe should restart dialogue with Russia to try to gain more influence in negotiations over Ukraine. Yeah, they was upset that Trump went to the table without them before. Says she suggested that the EU should appoint an envoy to negotiate directly with Putin. French President Emmanuel Macron has also discussed the possibility of re-engaging, mentioning in December the need for a fulsome dialogue with Moscow within weeks if a strong and lasting peace for Ukraine is not achieved in the meantime. Europe is aware that the war in Ukraine cannot be won the way the British imagine, and that it is time to focus on its own interests. Merz, the German guy, has finally understood this too. All right. Since the Germans have long understood that a return to the real politic in the future, multipolar world is necessary because they are in serious trouble socially, especially economically, right? Merz is losing ground in Germany. His coalition and majority are hanging in the balance, which is why he wants to reconcile with Russia to help improve the economic situation, while also not wanting to remain outside Italy and France, which are key EU countries. So there you go. So we got three already trying to get with Russia. You know, Germany is one of them. You're at Ezekiel 38. Right? So Ezekiel 38 and 3, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Awashad, I'm against thee, O God, Russia, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, going to Turkey. Now I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer, goes to Germany, and all his bands. That was a Togomor of the North Quarters and all his bands, and many people would be. Let me grab that real quick. Switch up here. Let's see. Bear with me. All right, let's see. All right, it was a better one. All right, I'm trying to download something. But I mean, you get it. You can see it there. It was a better map. Okay. Yeah, it was a better map. I have to look for. I'm not gonna look for it right now. You search my page, Ezekiel 38. Most likely, the map is there. Let me. Yeah, right. Gomer and all his bands. Many people with these. So many people are gonna be joined with Russia in these last days, and Germany being one of them, as you can clearly see in current news. Germany is trying to switch over. Let's check this out right here. So Europe dumps 9 billion in treasuries, demands gold back. Now this is interesting because BRICS is having a gold back currency, right? A digital gold back currency, by the way, because of course we're entering into the new world order, right? And the dollar is losing.
Germany just demanded 113 billion euros worth of gold back from American vaults. Sweden dumped $8.8 billion in US treasuries. Denmark announced that it is exiting US government bonds entirely, with their chief investment officer stating on the record the United States is basically not a good credit. This is not a hypothetical scenario anymore. This is the moment financial analysts have warned about for years, when America's allies finally decide the risk of holding dollar assets outweighs the benefits. I'm Elle of House of Elle on YouTube. I have a PhD in computer science and I work in finance for spotting geopolitical patterns as part of the job. And what I'm watching unfold right now is the beginning of a coordinated European withdrawal from US financial assets that could trigger the exact dollar crisis everyone said was impossible. Here's the context that makes this extraordinary. For decades, storing gold in New York and holding US treasuries was not just safe, it was the definition of safety. After World War II, Germany built up the world's second largest gold reserve and stored much of it in the vaults of the New York Federal Reserve. The logic was very simple. In case of Soviet invasion, Germany's wealth would be protected in American vaults. That arrangement persisted long after the Cold War ended. Even when grassroots movement in Germany demanded repatriation in 2010, the Bundesbank resisted. Between 2013 and 2017, Germany did bring back 674 tons from New York and Paris, but then the process stopped. Roughly 1,236 tons, about 37% of Germany's total reserves, worth 113 billion euros, remain in Manhattan. The same pattern held for US treasuries as well. European investors kept buying American government debt because it was the ultimate safe haven. Denmark's Akademika Pension had used US treasuries for liquidity management for years. Sweden's Alecta held around $11 billion in US government bonds. These were conservative institutional investors doing what conservative institutional investors do, holding the safest assets available. And then something changed. Within a 48-hour period this week, all of that stability shattered. Let me walk you through what actually happened because the financial mechanisms here matter. On Tuesday, Denmark's Akademika Pension announced that it would exit US treasuries entirely by the end of January. Not reduce holdings, not rebalance, exit completely. Chief Investment Officer Anna Schelde told Bloomberg, and I'm quoting here, the US is basically not a good credit and long-term the US government finances are not sustainable. On Wednesday, Sweden's Alecta revealed that it had been quietly selling US treasuries throughout 2025, offloading between $7.7 billion and $8.8 billion worth of US government bonds. Chief Investment Officer Pablo Bernenko cited, and I'm quoting again, the reduced predictability of the policy pursued in combination with large budget deficits and growing government debt. Then on Thursday, senior figures in Germany's Christian Democratic Union, the party set to lead the next government after February's election, began openly discussing full gold repatriation. Marie-Agnes Strack-Zimmermann, sorry if I mispronounced that, chair of the European Parliament's Committee on Security and Defense, publicly demanded Germany return all gold reserves from the United States, specifically citing the unpredictability of the policies pursued by the administration of Donald Trump. And when you work in finance, you really learn to read coordinated patterns as well. These were not isolated decisions. These were announcements made within 48 hours of each other, all citing identical reasoning. American fiscal instability combined with Trump's unpredictability. Here's the financial mechanism that matters. Europe collectively holds approximately 3.6 trillion euros in US treasuries. That would be roughly 40% of all foreign holdings. Beyond that, European investors hold roughly $8 trillion total in US bonds and equities. If even a fraction of that capital starts flowing home, US borrowing costs spike, the dollar weakens even further, and global financial markets destabilize. The Danish pension fund's $100 million doesn't move markets on its own, but it sets a precedent. And when Sweden reveals $8.8 billion already sold and Germany starts demanding 130 billion euros in physical gold, you are no longer looking at isolated decisions. You're looking at the early stages of capital flight. By the way, if you want to...
Yeah, you're looking at the end of America, all right? You know, that's what that's spelling out. And ultimately this spells out a war, right? Because with all this happening, them requesting gold and all of these different things, the BRICS nations, right, are coming out with digital backed currencies that are backed by 60% gold and some silver, you know, as gold and silver prices soar, right? And people are wanting a more stable currency and whatnot. So, you know, Russia and China and the rest of them BRICS is where the people are looking to do business with Germany and all these Europe nations. You know, and that's why, you know, Donald Trump is moving how he's moving, attacking these different nations because they're actually losing big, heavy, right? Revelation 11 and 14, it says the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe coming quickly, right? And all wars are bankers' wars. Pretty much all these wars revolved around some type of, you know, dollar petrol system, you know, or wherever the case may be. All right, and this is another war, right? And America is losing, BRICS is winning, and that's a no go.
$150 globally. The COMEX still exists, but it's irrelevant. Everyone knows the real price is set in the East, where physical metal actually trades. And the BRICS nations, which control the majority of silver production, are dictating the terms. Now let me show you the industrial sovereign demand component, because it's not just about monetary reserves, it's about strategic control of resources. The BRICS nations produce the majority of the world's commodities. Russia produces 10% of global oil, 17% of global natural gas, 40% of global palladium, 8% of global gold, and 6% of global silver. China produces 13% of global gold, 16% of global silver, 70% of global rare earth elements. Brazil produces 15% of global iron ore. South Africa produces 70% of global platinum. These nations are resource rich, and they've been selling their resources to the West for dollars. But now they're realizing they don't need to do that anymore. They can trade resources among themselves, denominated in units, backed by their own commodities. And here's the key insight. Once the unit system is established, once trade is flowing in units, the BRICS nations have no incentive to sell their commodities for dollars. Why would Russia sell oil to Europe for dollars when Europe is running massive deficits, when the dollar is being debased, when US sanctions can freeze Russian dollar holdings at any moment? Instead, Russia will demand payment in units, or in gold, or in silver.
This is why America doesn't want people even doing business with China and Russia and the rest of them, because eventually you have to move into their system and move away from the dollar, right, for things that you need. And these BRICS nations control a vast majority of the planet's resources. And they're no longer trying to deal with the dollar.
If Europe wants Russian gas, Europe will need to acquire units. And to acquire units, Europe will need to offer something of value: technology, machinery, commodities that the BRICS nations want. This is the shift from a dollar-based system to a resource-based system. And in a resource-based system, the countries that control the resources have the power. The BRICS nations control the resources. Therefore, the BRICS nations have the power. And silver, being both a monetary metal and a critical industrial commodity, is at the center of this shift. The BRICS nations are not going to export silver to the West at $73 per ounce when they need silver to back their own currency, to support their own industrial development, to build their own solar panels and electric vehicles and electronics. China is already restricting silver exports. As we discussed in previous videos, Russia is nationalizing precious metals production. South Africa is implementing policies to keep gold and platinum in country. The trend is clear. The BRICS nations are hoarding strategic resources. They're keeping them for themselves, and this reduces the supply available to the West. What happens when the West needs silver for industrial use, for manufacturing, and the primary suppliers, China, Russia, Peru, Mexico, Chile, are either members of BRICS or aligned with BRICS, and they're restricting exports? The price goes up dramatically.
War.
Because supply is controlled by a cartel that has no interest in keeping prices low. This is the new reality. This is the world we're entering in 2026, a world where the BRICS nations control the commodity markets, a world where silver is not just a metal, but a strategic weapon, a world where the price is dictated not by paper contracts in New York, but by physical availability and geopolitical leverage. Now, let me show you the documentation. Let me show you the specific passages from the unit technical specs that confirm everything I'm telling you.
And, basically, you can check the video out. What he goes on, as a matter of fact, what he goes on to say is I'll play, but he's giving out dates. We don't deal with the dates. But just from what we're looking at, America wanted their system up, the digital currency, the digital world, by 2030. All right. This BRICS situation regarding their whole currency, which is the BRICS units, they're projected to have this thing complete by 2028. Right. And Canada just got threatened 100% tariff for doing business with China regarding that new major trade deal that they just did, which goes into corn or something like that. I forgot what it was, but ultimately that will switch over to the system the BRICS is doing, once they're complete. So it's not looking like the devil is going to have a lot of time. What is BRICS unit? The BRICS unit is a proposed digital gold-backed currency and payment system for BRICS countries regarding like trade and things like that. And right now, the world uses the dollar for the trade. It says, the BRICS members. It says to settle trade, reduce dollar dependence, and create a parallel financial system backed by 40% physical gold. So I guess it was 40% gold. But you guys gonna see it in the video. And 60% BRICS currency. It functions as a neutral accounting unit for wholesale transactions, aiming to bypass SWIFT, which is the dollar, and other stability through tangible assets rather than just fiat currencies. And that's something the Russia just Germany just said. We want our gold basically. The EU they want their gold back because the dollar is collapsing.
On page 87 of the technical documentation, under the heading Reserve Asset Composition and Management, there's a table. The table lists the commodities in the backing basket and the target reserve quantities for a 100 trillion unit monetary base. For silver, the target quantity is listed as 4.2 billion troy ounces, or equivalent value in certificated warehouse receipts from approved BRICS refineries and depositories. 4.2 billion ounces. That's 8 times the estimated global above-ground supply. That's confirmation that the BRICS nations need massive quantities of silver, and they're planning.
China has stopped exporting silver. Okay, I know, especially to America, they have stopped completely exporting silver for this exact reason.
To acquire it over time by controlling production, restricting exports, and bidding up the price. On page 134, under the heading Price Discovery and Settlement Mechanisms, there's a paragraph that reads, Unit-denominated commodity transactions shall reference prices established on BRICS-approved exchanges, including but not limited to Shanghai Gold Exchange, Moscow Exchange, and Dubai Multi-Commodities Center. Prices from non-BRICS exchanges may be considered for reference purposes, but shall not serve as binding settlement prices in the event of dispute. Do you see what that says? It says the COMEX price is not binding. The COMEX is a non-BRICS exchange. If there's a dispute, if there's a discrepancy between the COMEX price and the Shanghai price, the unit system uses the Shanghai price. The COMEX is irrelevant. This is the death of the Western price suppression scheme. This is the BRICS nations saying, we're done playing your game. We're creating our own rules. We're setting our own prices. And if you don't like it, too bad. On page 178, under Strategic Reserve Accumulation Schedule, there's a timeline. And the timeline shows that the BRICS central banks are targeting 50% of the required silver reserves by Q4 2026 and 100% by Q4 2028. That means between now and the end of 2026, the BRICS central banks need to acquire 2.1 billion ounces of silver. That's roughly 175 million ounces per month, every month for the next 12 months. Where's that silver going to come from? Global mine production is about 830 million ounces per year, or 69 million ounces per month. But almost all.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem if there's World War III and Trump is invading Nigeria and Mexico and Cuba and Venezuela and Europe and all that, right? So, just want to blow the horn on that. Pretty much that is it. Lord willing, you were edified from the lesson. Shalom to the whole elect, which consists of men, women, and children. Shalom.